Welcome to the studio at North Rim. I'm your host, Adam Klugman, and I am really excited about my guest today. He is a bona fide Oregon success story. His last 3 singles recently made the top 5 nationally on the Billboard charts on his independent label, and he has been inducted as one of the youngest members into the Oregon Music Hall of Fame. He was recently given the Independent Spirit Award by the city of Portland and tours the world with Grammy winners and music luminaries like Dianne Shurr, Alice Cooper, Jeff Lorber Fusion, Tommy Thayer, Smokey Robinson, and music legend Gino Vanelli. And in addition to being an amazing saxophonist, songwriter, and singer, he is an Oregonian with a conscience whose primary issue focuses on something that really speaks to me: the defunding of arts in Oregon public schools. So we are definitely going to get into that. A few years ago, he broke out a solo career where he is killing it, selling out concerts on a tireless, never-ending tour. He has a new record out called Soul Ties that is jazzy and funky and sophisticated and just very cool. He's going to be touring all over Oregon in March, so you definitely don't want to miss that. And if you haven't guessed who it is by now, then you're in for a real treat. His name is Patrick Lamb. Patrick, welcome to the studio. It's a real honor to have you here.
Thanks for having me. This is great. Right. This is great. It's a great setup you got here. I've never seen it, and it's great that you've started such a great platform here.
Oh, thanks, man. We're really having fun. Glad to have you here, and I want to start with the new LP, Soul Ties. I love it. It's fantastic. It's everything I love about fusion. You know, it's got like a little bit of weather report in it and chicory in it. Miles every once in a while.
I started off with the record with this concept of so much of music now is done, via, you record a piano track in Los Angeles and you record the saxophone track in New York. And I really wanted to get a bunch of guys that I liked in the same room. And some of my favorite guys in Los Angeles are Alex Al, who did a lot of the last tours with Michael Jackson. He's just one of the funkiest guys on the planet. And Tony Maiden from Chaka Khan, and of course Jeff Lorber, and Little John Roberts, who's done a lot of touring with Janet Jackson and any number of different famous funky people. So the concept really was just to write a bunch of songs with Jeff Lorber, who I've done some touring with, and get us all in the same room and record the record. so that's what we did. So it's not overthought, it's not overproduced. We got together in a couple of days at Los Angeles and recorded it, and it's definitely influenced by Jeff Lorber, who's of course a pioneer of fusion. But I come up playing jazz with Dianne Shurr and studying a bunch of jazz standards. So it's kind of an interesting conglomeration of influence. Yeah.
The album sounds exactly like guys in a room creating music that they loved, having a shitload of fun.
Yeah, we did that, and we did have one guest vocalist. I had Frank McComb sing a song that has been a long-time favorite of mine called "Whatever Happens" by Bill Withers. So we did an arrangement of that. So I did do that at my studio.
Most of it was original, except for 2 songs. The Withers tune, and what was the other one?
Oh, let's see.
Oh, and Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Wayne Shorter.
Yeah, the Beauty and the Beast track. It just kills. I love that track. Well, why did you choose that track?
It's funny because we started off with the one that we were less sure of as sort of a sound check, for recording, and immediately we were like, oh no, this is money right here. We're gonna keep this one, because as soon as they started into the groove, we knew that it was a keeper. I think that's like the first take. It was like the first day. I was like, I'm really excited about this song. It's so funky. I want to hear Tony Maiden just playing the wah on the song, and it's definitely, it's not a radio thing. It's not. I doubt they'll. I mean, people are playing it, but they're not. It's not a commercial type of thing that everybody's going to play on the radio. But it's definitely one of my favorite songs.
On the EP.
On the record.
Yeah.
EP record.
Is that the word we're supposed to use now?
I don't know.
EP record, LP. I don't know what the LP and EP. What, like album? Right?
I like album.
Remember when you used to get
record,
albums? And
CD.
You'd open it up and the lyrics would be there and you'd listen and you'd follow along. Like that whole experience is gone. I mean, it went away with CDs, but that's one of the things I think was lost in the whole digital thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can still get a booklet,
Yeah.
But I don't how many people open it?
But it's like an addendum. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, and if you want to have the experience, you can. But it was all part of it. I mean, I remember the day that Wish You Were Here came out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd been like a movie. I was waiting for it, and my friend and I we were waiting. We went to right after school on Friday. They would release it at the end of the week. We went out. We got the Floyd album. We unwrapped it. We looked at the pictures. We looked at the lyrics. It was a whole experience.
Went to a party, drank a bunch of Whatever,
I was pretty young at the time, so I might not admit to some of the things I was doing. But yeah, for sure.
Different show. Yeah.
I miss that. But that's what I like about your album, your EP.
Yeah,
it has that old school vibe. It has that feeling like people got together and played music, and it captures that. So it doesn't feel kind of so much of the digital music today for me feels overwrought, right? Because you can nuance it to death, and because you're a really powerful live performer, that feeling comes through.
Oh, thank you.
On the EP, I love it.
Yeah, that was the well, we're in a really different age now where. People don't even buy. A lot of them don't buy records. They hear a song on some medium, and it's not. It could be terrestrial radio, it could be digital radio, and they download it. They go get it. They download it on Apple iTunes or Amazon, and then that's it. They may not even hear the rest of your record.
Right. They get
and then
one.
Then they see you on TV, and then they're like, they make in a space of about 16 seconds. They decide whether they like you or not, and then maybe they buy your next single, and then I mean, really the place that people buy your records. I still like to call them records.
Let's just
or
for the purposes
you gotta
of this interview,
right?
let's call them records.
Okay.
All right,
you don't want to call it like medium. I don't know what you're going to call it.
EP. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, extended play.
Let's call them records, man.
But live, you can still sell. People still want to have something personal from the artist. So
right.
The place where I sell records, where people sign them are live. When you connect, there's still something they can't take away from you. That you can't duplicate via radio, which is when you play for somebody live. There's an energy that happens, and energy never bullshit. So people they can't explain it. There's something inexplicable that happens.
Right.
It moves their heart, and then they want to stay in contact with you, and they want to have you sign their record. So that's.
And
I think that's
are you printing vinyl?
No, I haven't. But you can.
I mean, you could print vinyl. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you can print vinyl and have people sign it. I might do that.
Yeah, well, that would be cool.
I think it's cool.
Like my daughter, she's 21. She has a bunch of vinyl. When she turned 16, I took all the vinyl that I had left, which wasn't that much, and I gave it to her. I bought her a little vinyl player, and I gave her all.
Where do you get it? Where do you get a record player?
I got it
now?
at Urban Outfitters. It was just one of those little.
Can you buy them?
Oh
new?
no, it's like you can buy them new. Like,
you can.
Super high end.
They're probably like $3,000.
People spend thousands of dollars just on needles.
It's like diamond encrusted.
Just on the cartridge.
Right?
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
Right.
No, it's a whole thing now.
It's a whole thing.
Oh yeah, it's a whole.
But then you got to have it
time machine.
look retro, right?
Yeah, it's the retro.
Because it's modern, but you got to have it look retro because it's
exactly.
It's so confusing.
Man, we're looking forward. This is gonna be fun. Look at all the people, y'all! Woo! Put your hands in the air, y'all. Come on.
So I want to get back into a little bit of your background, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't know this about you until I started digging around. You're originally from Jackson, Mississippi, right?
That's where I was born.
And how the hell did you end up in Portland, and why?
Man, well, let's see. My dad, my parents were school teachers, and they taught. My dad taught science in Mississippi, and as he was teaching in these small towns, we lived in Cleveland, Raymond, Boyle, Mendenhall, Mississippi, and my dad would get these jobs, and he would find out pretty rapidly that they really didn't want to update the curriculum, or he just didn't feel like they really wanted to teach kids on a higher level. And come to find out later on, his kids won the World Science Fair, so he became a world-class science teacher. He's kind of like the Mr. Holland's Opus of science.
What year
here
is
in
this?
Portland?
What year?
I think that was like, gosh, that must have been like in 1990 or something like that. I'm not sure exactly the year, but Oregon Episcopal School. That's where I went to school. So we moved 11 times.
Wow.
By the time I came to Portland.
How old?
And so I moved up here when I was 14.
So you moved 11 times in 14 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we lived in, Jackson, Mississippi, Cleveland, Mississippi, Ball, Mississippi, Mendenhall, Mississippi.
That's a whole lot of
Jacksonville,
Mississippi.
Florida. We lived in St. Simon's Island, Georgia, Madras, Georgia, Shenandoah, Georgia. Did I say Jacksonville, Florida? See, I'm missing some. I'm forgetting some places. But we moved almost every single year, and so if you're a military kid, or you're a kid like I was, you didn't have a chance to make any friends. As soon as you enroll in school, you're trying to figure out how to integrate with everybody else who's already made their friends and their cliques, and then it's time to go. So by the time I got to Portland, my dad had gotten his position at Oregon Episcopal School, it turned out to be one of the top 10 schools in the nation. So it's a very high-end school, but as fate would have it, I couldn't go there because they hadn't worked out the thing where the teacher's kid can get the deal, and there's some kind of thing that happens when that enables the kids to go to the school, where the teachers
teach.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay. So they had worked it out. So I went over to Cedar Park, and Cedar Park had a music program, and Oregon Episcopal School didn't. So that's really where I got introduced to the saxophone. Had I gone to Oregon Episcopal School, I would not have picked up the saxophone, as amazing a school as it is. So when we talk about music in the schools, and I just I like to oversimplify. It's just this simple. Nobody comes and knocks on your door when you're 13 years old and says, hey, would you like to play the guitar or the flute or the saxophone? It has to be part of your culture. It has to be built in, because you don't know until you see it, until you have a chance to be exposed to it, until somebody's like, hey, you want to check this out, So that's how I got started, at Cedar Park. And then the following year, I went to Oregon Episcopal School. And my dad started an after-school program. And so we had band, after school at Oregon Episcopal School. After that, and then I went through all the books, and then I started working on Charlie Parker solos, and I started going out to jam sessions, and one thing led to another, and I got a call from Dianne Shurr to go on one of her tours afur her second Grammy. So.
One thing led to another. That's a big jump.
Yeah,
I'm playing around high school, and then I get a call from Dianne Shurr. So this is the 90s, though, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the moment you connected with the sax. Like, when did you know, oh, this is for me, man?
Well, when I went to Cedar Park, I was really, I didn't. This is a place for music, where music can really help people, because I didn't have many friends. I was very socially maladept, and so the saxophone was, as soon as I found it, I was like, it was the one thing that I felt like I could do, that the one thing that I could put my chips down on, and it just came really naturally. So I went through all the books, and then through that I felt like I gained interest in it, and then my dad brought me some Charlie Parker Omnibook solos, and then after
what was it like when you heard Charlie Parker? Did it blow your mind?
It sounded like calculus. When you first
hear it. That's a great analogy.
When you first hear it, and because after the first couple of semesters at Cedar Park, I thought I was pretty good. I was like, wow, I went through these books like a seconds flat. Of course, they're just like the the very Mary Had a Little Lamb, playing a little down, down, down.
I'm killing this thing.
See how she runs.
Killing Mary Had a Little Lamb.
and so after a while, I went through all those books, and then I thought I was getting pretty good at it, and so my dad brought me the Charlie Parker.
Just in case you thought you were getting really good at it.
He's like, "Oh, you think you're pretty good? Here, try that out. Let me know when you learn some of these solos." So,
what are some other influences, like Coltrane or?
I try to keep certain solos under my fingers. It's just a reference, just a reference point of kind of where your chops are at. And so, I went through a lot of Coltrane solos, transcriptions, Charlie Parker, Sonny Rollins, Wilton Felder was another. He's with the Crusaders.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, the Jazz Crusaders. So he was a big influence on me. Actually, I was playing alto until I heard Wilton Felder play the tenor, and then I heard that sound. I was trying to get it on the alto, and I was like, "Well, that's not the same instrument." So I picked up the tenor and then started transcribing solos from Wilton Felder, and that's when I started getting my tenor chops, as it were. Yeah.
One of my favorite saxophone players of all time, Ben Webster.
Oh yeah,
That
Ben Webster.
tone, I can
Absolutely.
be in a party with a lot of noise and just hear that tone and go, that only one man makes that sound.
Or
with a sax.
Stan Getz.
Yeah, Stan Getz.
Stan Getz.
Yeah.
So Stan Getz, one of the reasons I got the gig with Dianne Shurr is they had sent me all of her recordings, and they her manager from New York at the time was named Peter Paul. He's like, "Hey, this is Peter Paul. I'm going to send you the recordings." He sent me all the...
One of those guys.
Yeah. So when our first gig was at the Schnitzer Hall, and I remember I didn't know what the Schnitzer Hall was at the time.
How old are you?
I think I was 16. No, 17.
Wait, you were,
17.
so you
17,
were 16 or 17 when you were playing with Dianne
17.
Shurr?
I remember trying to find the Schnitzer Hall. I'd never heard of it. I'd been playing like these little clubs and going to jam sessions, and so I mapped it out. And I remember coming up. I was walking on Broadway, and I came up to Schnitzer. I was like, "This can't be it. This is huge. Holy crap!" And
Did you get
so
nervous?
I was very nervous.
Yeah.
I was terrified. So we went in. We did a sound check, and then I remember the first night where the curtains are closed and it's sold out. I was like completely terrified, but
You're a kid.
Yeah, but I did, but I did a good job, and so afterwards she was like, "Yeah, I want you to come do my other stuff." Yeah, so that's kind of how that works.
All right, so that leads right into my next question. So you're playing for Dianne Shurr. You're kind of made it. You're building your reputation. You're killing it. Your career's going great, right? You're kind of the saxophonist to the stars, right? That's all going. And then at some point you decide that you want to go solo career. I'm wondering what that felt like. I mean, congratulations on it going so well. I'm really happy that it did. But at the time, did it make you nervous? Did you know that it would go well? I mean, where was your head at when you decided that you wanted to go solo? And
I've been so blessed. The artists I've toured with have been so fantastic. Like if I had to sit down and write down some people that I'd like to play with, I think one of the reasons I haven't gotten around to my solo career is because it's been so much fun touring with these people.
Oh,
I mean, with Dianne Shurr, we played all over the world, from the Kennedy Center to Blue Notes, and then Japan and New York and, everywhere. So it's like there's nothing not to like. About these gigs. And then after that, right. I toured with Bobby Caldwell for about 7 years, something like that, playing alto. And, every time we go to Japan, everything's sold out. We play like 22 shows. He had me playing string parts and singing falsetto with the other lady singers with Jeannie. And so I learned a lot through all of these different gigs. I ended up singing. Not a lot of people know that, but
you have a good voice, man. Pretty impressive.
That I really didn't mean. I still love you, baby. I still love you, baby. I'm talking about them bad, bad girls. Come on, 'cause you want a good time. You ask yourself, who are these ladies? Like anybody else, they come from near the top. I think I need a bad girl. We got any bad girls out there?
Look up here, baby.
Tell me about your relationship with Gino Vanelli.
Let's see. I was touring with Dianne Shurr when I was about 18, I think, and I got a call from Gino. I didn't know who the heck he was, to be honest. You know, I confess. I feel, people are like, what's wrong with you? You didn't know who Gino was. But I didn't know who he was, and he said, yeah, I've got a studio downtown. I want you to come working on this record, Yonder Tree, and I want you to come down and see if you can play a solo on this record. So I went down. It's got this redonkulous studio. It's like a whole building, down in Northwest. It's just beautiful, chocolatey. It's like, air conditioning and a beautiful Steinway piano. And he's got 10 people, turning buttons for him. And so anyway, I went in and at the time I had my old saxophone, which looked like it had washed up on the beach. My grandmother got it for me for $50. It was, it did look like it had washed up on the beach, for real. I mean, because all the lacquer worn off of it. But, man, I played this thing for 13 years. It didn't really play in tune, and I thought it was me. but up high, the altissimo. But I love this horn, a beautiful tone. And so I ended up, I was like, there was this other solo, on the record, and I was like, man, who's that? He's amazing. He's like, that's Tom, that's Tom Scott, and I was like, who's on piano? It's like, so anyway, and I was really surprised that I ended up, he ended up keeping what I played, because I remember leaving the studio just going, I just suck, the big one, really bad. And but he liked it, so he ended up keeping the solo. So that was my first experience on Yonder Tree. And then, of course, he made some records. He had a different touring band, and I was touring, doing other things. I didn't really hear anything from him until about 12 years ago. And then he put together a new band, just a completely outrageously, redonkulously fantastic, world-class band based out of Portland. I mean, he took really the best of the best. You have Damian Erskine on the bass, Jay Coder on the guitar, Greg Goebel. Actually, it's interesting because I've been with the band longer than most of them. So at the time it was Randy Porter and Sandon Wilson, and it's been through a couple of different changes. But yeah, I've been with the band for 12 years, and so part of my role has been to rehearse the horn section in every city that we go to. So we've been all over the world. It's a real honor, because there's a lot of responsibility. And I'm not like your super, technical music guy. I mean, you have to be to play in Gino's band to a certain extent. But I mean, part of I think what I bring is just that, I try to make it fun for everybody. I mean, it's part of it. It's being incredibly organized. I create a site with every MP3 and chart perfect on the site. I send it to them, and then we get a chance to rehearse for half an hour before the gig. So
wait. So you send them MP3s. They practice on their own. You guys have charts.
Yeah,
and they practice on their own. But playing together and playing something alone is kind of different experience. I have no musical talent at all, so I can't imagine what that's like. But I imagine that with a half an hour rehearsal, you better have some good musicians.
Well, maybe a little more than an hour.
Oh, but still, it's like, hey guys, remember those songs you all played in your homes, your studios, or whatever? We're going to play them together now.
Well, it's all about communication. So I send out all the material with the understanding, the caveat that make sure you go over it.
Because you're going to get her and have to play with a bunch of guys you never met before.
That's correct. Yeah. So that keeps it exciting.
That's pretty cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So hey, we've only had to fire people a couple of times. So
I mean, you ever had that disaster like
a little truth in every joke? Yeah.
Oh shit! This doesn't work.
Yeah. I won't mention any names, but
you get the guys together and go, these guys are terrible.
We've sent people home, but
what's the age difference between you two?
Between Gino and I?
Yeah.
Oh, he's older than me. he's
Is he kind of big brother kind of figure to you?
I kind of feel like that. Yeah. It's interesting because when I first started playing with him, since this is the tell-all segment. So one of my first gigs with him. So he called me to play in the band. Reinhardt had said, "Hey, you should call Patrick," and so he called me. He sent me some material, but it was like a conglomeration of different record stuff, and there weren't a whole lot of charts. There weren't many, if any. So I wrote out a bunch of stuff, and then we had a gig in Vegas. It was like Tony Braxton got sick or something, so we had a big gig at a room in Vegas, and we had a rehearsal scheduled for Friday, like one rehearsal, and then there was the gig was on a Tuesday in Vegas. So Gino can, he's just an absolutely world class. There's very few people on the planet like Gino. I mean, there's nobody that I've met that's both an incredible producer. I mean, because usually you're one or the other, right? Like Gino, he writes his stuff, he produces it, and he's just got, he's always working on new material. It's really uncommon. But anyway, back to my story. So the story, so he had sent, when I first started playing with him, there weren't any charts really. I had to write out my own charts, and we weren't really sure exactly what I was going to be doing. It was just me. There wasn't a horn section. So
You were the horn section.
that was it. Yeah. So we got to the Friday before the Tuesday gig in Vegas, and we had the rehearsal. He was like, "Okay, I want you to ghost the string line here, and I want you to play the alto on this part. I want you to, the tenor solo here, and I want you to do this. And oh, by the way, you're not planning on bringing any music, are you?"
You're not bringing any sheet music with
Yeah,
you.
you don't think you're bringing any music.
You're not bringing anything on stage,
Right.
dude. Oh, I get it now. Okay.
Right.
I get it now.
So, and I just got this deer in the headlights look, and I was.
What day
was
was
like,
that he said
It was on
that?
Friday.
So you
and the
spent
gig was on
weekend.
Tuesday.
You were doing a lot of this
So
on the weekend.
I remember I practiced like just straight.
Right.
No, literally until
Sleep.
I practiced.
Sleep practice.
I practiced, and then I remember saying, "Well, Gino, I don't know if I can." He's like, "Well, hey, man,
Not my problem.
yeah."
And it wasn't.
So it was good. So, I practiced in the room. I practiced before sound check. I practiced after sound check. That's just what you got to do.
Let's get into this issue. I know you do a lot of fundraisers and benefits for like Dornbeckers and Oregon Food Bank and American Cancer Society. But let's talk about this issue that really is close to your heart, that you advocate for. And now I understand where it comes from because of how you found the saxophone. Well, let's talk about it. What are some of the issues around this idea that the arts aren't really being funded in our public schools, and why you chose that?
Well, I think one of my skills is oversimplification. So I think we need that too. This crazy world,
Yeah,
all
right.
the crazy stuff on Facebook, and just we're just inundated with information. So I think what we need sometimes is a simple plan.
That'd be nice.
And I think music, no less, needs to just be completely remarketed in the same way you remarket like McDonald's or Columbia Sportswear or whatever. It needs a new mission in terms of the way it's marketed, in terms of specifically that music is so important just scientifically. I mean, kids who study music, they have higher SAT scores. They're socially adaptable. They go to JLS. They make a lot more money. I mean, there's a lot of scientific data. So I think we have been unsuccessful in getting through to administrators. And I mean, there's a lot of things that we need help in this day and age, in terms of schools. But in terms of making a good point for why music is important, I think that we need to focus on the science of why kids who study music are just better human beings. I mean, it's scientifically in so many different ways. So I'm starting a Patrick Lamb Foundation for the Arts this year, and
Right on.
that's going to become the focus. I haven't seen anybody focus on that particular, exactly.
On music in particular, or arts in general, or
the
music?
science of why.
Oh,
why,
I see what you're saying.
Because it's
Like
really,
the data, the outcomes of
yeah.
kids who play music in school, they have better outcomes in their lives in general. That's what I hear you saying, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really easy to make the argument. Everybody loves music.
Right.
Geez, it's my favorite song. I love that so and so plays the piano, but when you're looking at the dollars and cents of the allocation of funds to school programs or from the government, you need to be able to make some scientific data connections on why that's the case, and I think that's really what we've been missing. So if you really want to get through to these issues, I think we need to be able to make that in a very simplistic form, just kind of rebrand why music is so important.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that we have to even make that case, but you're right. I mean, being able to present empirical evidence that quantifies...
Empirical, I like that, yes.
It's a fancy word.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
one
I like
of my
it.
$5 words that I like to use. I have a couple. They may come up again. But
That's a good one.
empirical, quantify, that's another one that I
Yeah.
like. But it's true. It's like this isn't guesswork. It's not that I feel strongly about music or I feel strongly about art. That's kind of my position. I just feel like in America we seem to think that art is optional. Europe doesn't feel that way, right?
We got to cut through that BS.
Yeah, art is not optional. Should not be an optional part of becoming human. You need exposure to it. You need to experiment with it. It opens parts of the brain. It enriches your whole experience. Now, I don't come at it from a data-driven point of view, but I really like this idea. And so, is the foundation?
Yeah, what do you think? You like
I
that?
like it. It's
I'm
cool. It's
excited
called the
about
Patrick.
that.
What's it called?
Patrick Lamb Foundation for the Arts.
So let's talk about. You got some tour dates coming up here in Oregon. So
not just Oregon. I mean, we've got Hawaii and the East Coast and all over the world. I mean, there's a lot more happening coming up than just in Oregon.
How long is the tour?
Well, I mean, I do stuff with Gino Vanelli, so we go in and out of town, and then I have my own company here, which we have 11 dates with Oregon State Fair. I do production. I book jazz at the Oxford in Bend, Oregon, and all those shows have sold out. So there's a lot of different things going on.
Well, I guess I wanted to focus on Oregon because this is where people will come and see you. But I'm glad you let me know. But before I go to Oregon, how long is the overarching tour? I mean, are you just kind of pretty much always on tour? Is that kind of your life, and then you come off for a while? And then
That's
you go
my
back
life.
On? Sounds good, man.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good life.
I have between now and next year. I mean, I have dates all the way through into next year. So including New Year's Eve, the Governor's Ball, which is something that my company produces, and we have the Dan Reed Network.
They can go to your website and find the dates, right?
Yeah, Patrick.
go to the tour. There's a bunch of stuff coming up in Oregon in March, right?
Yep.
Well, the album Soul Ties, the record Soul Ties is fantastic, and for people who love that old school kind of recorded live vibe, it really has that. You just find yourself. I was listening to it all morning as I was getting ready for the interview, and it's just so upbeat, and it just feels so good. You have a couple ripping solos on Operator, particularly. That solo, just fantastic. So
Thank you.
I just can't recommend that people get enough. I'm really, really happy that you came in here today, and like I said, it's an honor to have you, and you'll see me at the concert. I'll be waving at you from the front row.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Lamb,
I really
thanks so
appreciate
much
it. Thank you very much.